what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sportlight podcast. This week, we're going to take on one of our core principles, the principle of resilience.
Welcome to the Sportlight podcast for parents, coaches, and athletes. The Sportlight refers to the time in an athlete's life when they have increased ability to affect the culture around them and the increased opportunity to learn life's lessons through sports. This podcast aims to help parents and coaches capitalize on their athletes' precious time in the Sportlight. The Sportlight podcast is brought to you by Especially for Athletes program.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Hope you're having an awesome week. For those of you who are here in Utah, just got done with a nice fall break. Hopefully you and your family got to spend some time together. Hope you had a wonderful weekend with your family. And so today we're going to take on a topic of resilience. And resilience is one of the greatest things that sports does for our children. As a matter of fact, as we go around and we talk to young athletes, we talk to them about how sports gives them one of the greatest gifts that they never wanted, right? It gives them the opportunity to lose, the opportunity to be embarrassed or to get knocked down, to miss the game-winning shot. And then they just have to respond. Young athletes then have a choice. Am I going to quit? Do I want to avoid feeling these feelings I'm feeling right now? And if so, it's really easy. All you have to do is never play sports. Never put yourself out there. If you're not up to bat, you're not going to strike out, right? But if you never take risk, if you do not risk failure, you're going to miss out on so much in life. And one of the greatest gifts that sports gives to our children is the opportunity to fail, to fall down, and to lose, and to have to deal with that. Resiliency is like a muscle, and it develops as we have to use it. And resiliency is that ability to bounce back after a difficult loss or a difficult experience. And so sports naturally provides that. It provides losses and failures to our children to learn to have to deal with. And that muscle of resiliency builds up because they're going to have to use that in life. And one of the greatest speeches that has ever been given on this was given by the great Rocky Balboa to his son. And so he captures this feeling, this thought that life is going to knock you down harder than sports ever will. And so here's Rocky to his son.
Living with you, it hasn't been easy. People see me, but they think of you. Now with all this going on, this is going to be worse than ever.
It don't have to be.
No, sure it does.
Why? You got a lot going on, kid.
Oh, what, my last name? That's the reason I got a decent job. That's the reason why people deal with me in the first place. Now I start to get a little ahead. I start to get a little something for myself. And this happens. Now I'm asking you as a favor not to go through with this, okay? This is only going to end up bad for you, and it's going to end up bad for me.
You think I'm hurting you?
Yeah, in a way you are.
It's the last thing I ever wanted to do.
I know that's not what you want to do, but that's just the way that it is. Don't you care what people think? Doesn't it bother you that people are making you out to be a joke and that I'm going to be included in that? Do you think that's right? Do you?
You ain't gonna believe this. But you used to fit right here. I'd hold you up and say to your mother, this kid's gonna be the best kid in the world. This kid's gonna be somebody better than anybody ever knew. And you grew up good and wonderful. It was great just watching you every day. It was like a privilege. Then the time come for you to be your own man and take on the world, and you did. But somewhere along the line, you changed. You stopped being you. You let people stick a finger in your face and tell you you're no good. And when things got hard, you started looking for something to blame, like a big shadow. Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you want to be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that. I'm always gonna love you no matter what. No matter what happens. You're my son, you're my blood. You're the best thing in my life. But until you start believing in yourself, you ain't gonna have a life. Don't forget to visit your mother.
Some profound words there from Rocky Balboa. I love just a couple of things to recap there. Somewhere along the line, you changed, he said to his son. And when things got hard, you started looking for something to blame. I think this is really cool because I see this happening in my young self as an athlete and my children sometimes, that when sports does start to knock you down, when sports does start to make it so you experience failure or embarrassment or whatever, you have these choices. And one of our knee-jerk reactions that we often go to as people, no matter what the venue, whether it's sports or not, is we start looking for someone to blame. You know, we start to play the victim. We start to think, okay, whose fault is it that I failed? And you all know this, but when we approach life that way, when we approach life as though, okay, you know, something's going wrong in my life, whose fault is it? Instead of what I can do, what can I do about it? That skill of learning to look at life as, what can I do? Like, here's my situation. Obviously, I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to experience this, but I am experiencing this failure, this setback, or whatever it might be. So here I am now. What can I do? If we start to look at what we can do, if we start to use our imagination, our ingenuity, our energy to start thinking of solutions and our next step and what I could do to get better, then that points towards success in life. But if we start looking at, okay, who can I blame for my issues? Who can I blame for my problems? That just leaves us with a bad life, with a great excuse for a bad life. And so we love that sports teaches our children that. He goes on to say, the world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. Nobody is going to hit as hard as life, but it ain't about how hard you get hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. And so when we have these discussions with our kids after a hard moment in sports, if we realize, man, this is an awesome moment for them. This is a moment where they are building the muscle of resiliency. And we don't let them go to blaming others or complaining about whose fault it is, but we just allow them to experience the pain of defeat and let that fuel their work ethic instead of just frustration or blaming or playing the victim. That will really help them to develop that skill of resiliency. And sometimes we love to swoop in. We did a podcast on this earlier, one of our first podcasts, where we like to swoop in and we like to save our children from experiencing any pain. And that's almost like when a child is trying to get stronger and they're lifting weights. If we're sitting there as a spotter and we're just pulling up the weight so they think they can lift more than they can, they're not developing any of that muscle that they're hoping to develop. And sports is like this major workout for resiliency. But if we continue to pull up the bar as coaches or as parents or as players who are listening to this, if we always go to that, okay, whose fault is it? I failed. Whose fault is it? Then we're never going to develop that all-important muscle of resiliency. That muscle when life isn't sunshine and rainbows, when life does hit us hard, then we need to, sports can help us develop those muscles that allow us to learn to bounce back. And in our book, I was reading in our book a quote in this chapter, the chapter on resiliency. Chief Justice John Roberts said the following at a college commencement speech. Now, the commencement speakers will typically also wish you good luck and extend good wishes to you. I will not do that, and I'll tell you why. From time to time in the years to come, I hope you will be treated unfairly, so that you will come to know the value of justice. I hope that you will suffer betrayal, because that will teach you the importance of loyalty. Sorry to say, but I hope you will be lonely from time to time, so that you don't take friends for granted. I wish you bad luck again from time to time, so that you will be conscious of the role of chance in life and understand that your success is not completely deserved, and that the failure of others is not completely deserved either. And when you lose, as you will from time to time, I hope every now and then your opponent will gloat over your failure. It is a way for you to understand the importance of sportsmanship. I hope you'll be ignored so that you know the importance of listening to others, and I hope you will have just enough pain to learn compassion. Whether I wish these things or not, they're going to happen, and whether you benefit from them or not will depend upon your ability to see the message in your misfortunes. And that's a great statement there. I hope you will be able to see the message in your misfortunes. Now, as Chief Roberts, as he read through that list, sports gives us the opportunity to do many of those things. Bad calls are going to happen. Unfairness is going to happen in life. Sometimes those who defeat you are going to gloat, and that's going to teach us to be good sports and not gloat over those that we have success over. And so this is just it's just so important for us as we go around. This is why it's one of our key principles is sports helps us build resiliency, but we can't swoop in and take away the consequences of losing by giving excuses to our children. In a previous podcast, we talked about the analogy of the peach tree, where me and my neighbors were trying to mist water around our peach buds, the blossoms, because a freeze was going to come in and we were afraid it was going to destroy it. And so we set up a time in the night where we were going to go out and we were going to spray our trees, mist them with some water, so that hopefully the insulation around the buds would protect them from the damaging frost that was coming. And one neighbor just put a sprinkler at the base of his tree and had it go all the way up over his tree. The problem is he went to sleep, turned on the faucet, and the ice went up over his tree, and the ice became so weighty that it broke all the branches off of his tree. And so by trying to save the blossoms from the frost, he actually destroyed his whole tree. And sometimes the analogy that we shared in a previous podcast that we do as we go around and speak sometimes is that in our attempt to shade our kids or to insulate our kids from these frosts that they'll face in sports, that might actually be damaging the tree more than the frost would ever damage those blossoms. And so to realize it's a gift for our kids to lose. Losing is a gift. Disappointment is a gift. It's one of the greatest gifts that sports is going to give to a person or to your child or to your team. And so like Chief Roberts mentioned there, if we will have the ability to step back and to see the message in the loss and to learn lessons and to build the skill of being resilient, to coming up with solutions, to bouncing back, to learning hard work is the answer to success, not to blaming others or to bringing down others. Those skills allow our children to develop one of the most important muscles they'll ever develop playing sports, and that's resiliency. It also does something else, and I want to share, for those watching on YouTube, I'm going to share this. I'll describe it for those who are listening. But we have this matrix that we share when we go around and we meet with people. And it's the relationship between two things, talent and effort. And we have 4 boxes, okay? Those who are watching this can see it, but On one side, we have effort going up and down, and on the top, we have talent going low to high on the top. So the relationship is, as we intermingle these two, effort and talent, we came up with 4 boxes. One box is low effort, low talent. Another box is low effort, high talent. And then there is high effort, low talent. And then, of course, high effort, high talent. Now, one thing that resiliency will allow young athletes to do, as one author put it once, that resiliency is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. And so one of the things is they develop resiliency, they'll keep trying stuff. Even when they fail, they won't be afraid of failure, so they'll keep trying new things. And if we analyze these 4 boxes, low effort, low talent, if you're in that box, you are going to be miserable, you're going to get nothing out of the experience, and you will bug those around you. Those in the low effort, high talent box, eventually people who work hard are going to pass that person up, and they're not going to learn the life lessons that come from working really hard at something. And so as soon as people pass them up, they'll get frustrated, and usually these people fizzle out and they quit. But I want to focus with our resiliency here on the top 2 boxes if you're watching, but on the high effort, low talent, and high effort, high talent boxes. If you are a resilient person and you give high effort, but you're really not good at something, you're going to fail a lot. But you're going to learn something. In that box, the high effort, low talent box, you are going to learn to work hard, and you're going to learn to fail and to keep going. You're going to learn to develop solutions. You're going to learn to not lose enthusiasm, but keep trying. You're going to learn to finish even when it's hard. So those who play sports, you may not have all the talent in the world, but if you could be a high effort person, you start to develop this skill, this attribute of resilience. And as you keep going through life, what we try to teach athletes is if you keep trying new things, if you realize you really don't have a lot of talent at something, then maybe try something else. But if you always give high effort and give your most to whatever it is that you're doing, what eventually happens is you're going to find the thing that you have a lot of talent at. And if you've learned to work through the frustration of failure, and you've kept the ability to keep trying hard, to have really, really high effort, even when you're not very good, or even when your team is not very good. Sometimes with team sports, for example, you could be an incredible football player, but on a bad team. And you're working and working and working. You're never going to see the wins. And maybe you're a receiver. You're never going to receive the receiving yards because you don't have a great quarterback, right? But if you learn to work hard in those situations, if you learn to be resilient, what's eventually going to happen as you go on with life, as you give high effort to everything that you do, is eventually your high effort is going to meet high talent. You're going to find something that you're really, really good at. And because you've learned to work through failure, to be resilient, to work hard even when it gets frustrating, then you add that to being really talented at something, what you're going to see is you're going to see magic happen. You're going to find something that it feels like you're born to do, and you've developed now the ability to be resilient. You've developed also the skill of working through difficulty. Now you couple that with that talent, and those are the people who just seem to take off in life, to do the thing that they were born to do, because you're still, as the great Rocky Balboa taught us, you're still going to get shut down. You're still going to have failure, because life is not all sunshine and rainbows. But those who maybe haven't develop the skill of resiliency, even though they might have high talent, when they face failure, then their effort level drops. They haven't learned to push through it. But when you find the thing that you're very talented at, and you're also have developed the ability to keep going when you fail and you have high effort, then man, magic happens in your life, and it seems like doors open, and all of a sudden you just have this huge opportunity because you've learned resiliency. And so that's our message for you today. Do not shield yourself from failure. Do not shield children or your team from failure. Don't make excuses. Embrace failure. Life and sports is going to knock you down, and in those moments, I've had a few conversations with my children, and I've said, man, I'm sure glad you're experiencing this right now. I'm sure glad you care so much about this sport, and that you experience the disappointment of losing, because now you have the opportunity to work hard, to try to overcome this setback, to try to get more playing time, to try to get into the dance, to try to beat that person the next time you play them. And as you get up and work to try to accomplish that, it's going to build that essential attribute of resiliency in your life, and it will be good for you as you move forward to build that. So I'm glad my children haven't won every game they've ever played. I'm glad they haven't made every dance they've ever tried out for. I'm glad that sometimes they don't make the team or get the spot on the team that they want. I'm really, really happy for that, because sports teaches them resiliency, and that muscle of resiliency that they're building through responding to failure is going to be way more valuable to them than another trophy. So that's our message for you today. We hope you're having a great time playing these sports, practicing, learning all of these life lessons in sports. And we hope that, as always, you will keep your eyes up and do the work.
This has been the Sportlight podcast from Especially for Athletes, sponsored by Coca-Cola. You can learn more about Especially for Athletes by visiting the website at especiallyforathletes.org. You can also learn more about the book, The Sportlight, by Shad Martin and Dustin Smith at especiallyforathletes.org/book.